right. All right. Well, today I am doing a special recorded version of my 5 questions with series. Normally, this is a text-based blog series, but I'm very excited to talk to Miranda Krongstad today because you have a very multimodal sort of book. And so I thought it was very important for us to talk about your book in a recorded manner instead of just on text. So, first of all, I would love it if you would just tell me a little bit about you and about your poetry book.
Yeah. So I'm Miranda Krongstad, big fan of Finn. So, that's how you all can know me. I am a spoken word poet. And so it was definitely a bit of a challenge creating a book because spoken word is sort of poetry that's meant not to be on the page. And so translating it to the page, I was like, how are we even going to do this? But I have this little graphic design fairy godmother, Katrina Ginto, who just fluttered into my life. We actually worked together before on some lyric videos for my show, Why We Tell Stories. And she made this, we planned this a little bit. Finn did give me a heads up that we'd be talking about the book. She made this book and she made each poem a different world. And so first of all, I love the thought of that. Like each poem has such a different design and they're just all gorgeous. There's some poster pages. There's some actual photos of the people who I've written poems for and about. There's a poem between me and my mom that's like two faces looking at each other. She just did like a phenomenal job. Every page, it's like you open it up and it's something different. And so I love that. I love her. I also love that she did such a great job of capturing it the way it sounds. So like any line that I would kind of let hang there or that I would say louder, she would put in bigger or different fonts. She really let it reflect the spoken word style. And then on top of that, we have QR codes so people can listen to the original tracks and they can see videos of me performing. So yeah, very, as you say, multimodal was a great way to put it. And I could not be more thrilled with it. I feel so lucky to have worked with her. Jim Jackson had the idea for the QR codes, which I think was so clever. That's my publisher, who's at Prairie Soul Press. So yeah, it's definitely like a labor of love. I worked on the poems over about a decade. So some of them are kind of baby Miranda poems. They're like previous versions of me sort of thing. But it was so neat to see it kind of reinvigorated and brought back to life through Katrina's graphic design. So I am so excited about it and so excited for everyone to see it.
I have to say, I'm not normally someone who would go out and buy a poetry book. I do love some poetry, but it generally doesn't fall in my radar. And I was lucky to attend a soft launch of this, and I was so intrigued and so excited by how unusual the format was that I immediately bought it. And I've noticed that my wife and I will just pick up a book and like she'll read something aloud to me from the book, and we're just like, oh, and isn't this cute? And so to me, it feels like very interactive, even as a reader and my perceptions of it.
That honestly is it gives me all the warm fuzzies. That's exactly what I wanted from the book. I have heard of people reading it to each other in a few different contexts. I know that Carrie, our friend from Wine Country Writers Festival, she gifted it to her mom for the mom poem. I've seen some of my friends reading it to their kiddos, the Welcome to the World poem. So I love that it's being read aloud and that it's being given new life for other people. I really do think that she did such a great job of breaking it up into stanzas with visuals in between and having emphasis lines that you're kind of supposed to give a little more space and think about a little more. And so I love that it feels interactive to you. Katrina was really intentional about it too. There's a couple poems that are sideways on purpose for no other reason than to get the person to think differently about the book and shift it around and just realize that they're engaging with it. There's even a couple fold here pages hidden in there and little Easter eggs like that I'm just obsessed with. So I honestly, Finn, it gives me all the warm fuzzies that you two are reading it together.
It's absolutely wonderful. And I love the recipe one as well, the pasta poem. There's just so many wonderful things in there. And I will put the link to purchase in
Yeah.
when we post the blog. It'll be in the body of the blog post. So one
I'll
thing
see if I can
about
find the pasta one. This is the recipe one.
yes, I love the pasta one.
I love that one,
It's
Finn. Yeah.
so worth checking out this book. It definitely would make a great gift book because it's just so unusual. Like I already know three people that I want to buy it for,
Oh, I'm so
including my
glad.
friend who's a poet, Andrew Shaughnessy. And I always say like, because he's a poet, like I always go to him if I have a poem that I really love. And
Oh,
so I'm really looking forward to buying it.
I'm
Um,
so glad.
but one of the things I love about this book is that it is weird, right? Like it's unusual.
Yes.
It doesn't fit into what we consider a traditional poetry book or traditional publishing in any way. And I know a lot of my readers of this blog do write things that are a little weird or that aren't considered this is the traditional thing. So what advice would you give to people that have works that they think doesn't fit into what publishing says is publishable?
Yeah, great question. And one of my favorites, because honestly, I think everyone's a little bit of a weirdo in their own way. And some of that weirdness is marketable right now and is trendy right now. And some of it isn't. And what I usually tell people, if you're kind of in an unconventional niche, is that whether you write what you love or whether you write what you hate, there's an audience for that, And I am much more concerned with what my work does for me. And then the audience can find me if they resonate with it. But I never want to be someone, I think, who toils at work they don't love in order to appeal to people who also won't be a good fit for you. Really, if you're writing work that is just for someone else, I don't think you're really going to connect with those people either if it's not your favorite thing. So I think it's the most important thing if you're going unconventional is to stay true to what you enjoy. And recently I was talking with my buddy Michael Averill from Kelowna, and he was talking about creativity as like a metal detector of like you're kind of like going along the sand, and then there's like this ding 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 moment where you're like, okay, I should dig here. And I think that as creatives, our job is to dig where that metal detector goes off, like where we have that like moment of like, okay, there's something special here. I have to do the work now, get out my shovel and like figure out what's interesting about this or what's buried there. And so, yeah, I'm definitely someone from an unconventional career. Y'all can, find your own little ding, 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 ding moment. If that's, zombie romances or whatever your niche is. And just keep going for sure. The other piece of advice that I'll give for unconventional people is to do it in an unconventional way. So I, at first, was very attached to following the literary steps of success, of, getting published in a literary magazine and then, working up to a publisher, then working up to a bigger publisher and kind of following this little staircase of like winning prestigious awards. And I will say that since I do something so unconventional, I've also adjusted the way I do it too, of like, I found my agent on Indeed because I was looking at theater agents and literary agents, and no one quite fit. People could either get performance opportunities or literary opportunities. And so I just put the skill set of who I needed online and found my wonderful Melanie, who now comes with me to festivals and, is one of my closest friends and has been with me for 4 years. And so, there's so many different examples of that within my career of, shifting from, I need to publish in a magazine to like, maybe I need to go on the TEDx stage. Maybe that's as a performer what I need, and so whatever your niche is of like, I realized at one point I'm a poet for the people, not a poet for the poets, like find out what is right for you. Define your own success. Maybe that's my thing to leave on. Define your own success. That was a very rambly way of coming about that, but hopefully that is the little kernel that I would like people to take away.
I think define your own success is a wonderful, like, I would just like to have that on a poster or something in my wall. I think about that a lot, what success means. So you and I met at a writing festival the first time we met, and then we have recently been lucky enough to share space at a writing festival again. And that makes me think about writing community. And I'm wondering, first of all, how important do you think writing community is? And then kind of sidebar on that, do you have a writing community? And would you have any advice for people who maybe are looking to establish a writing community? I know that's a lot of questions.
I love this question. I love all of these questions. I could go on about this for hours with you, Finn, but I'll try to be succinct, not my forte. But anyways, the first thing to note is that I have loved getting to know the people in my community. You were an absolute gem that I found. And I feel like every time we're around each other, we just rave about each other's work. And it's so genuine. Like it's so mutual fan club.
And ideas flow when we get
Yeah,
together, which is wonderful.
that's exactly it. As you know, and I'm quite lucky that, my writers community extends beyond just writers, that, my mom will come with me to festivals and, family members, my partner Brad will come sometimes, I'll have different people that come along with me, my best friend Emily. And my mom, when she was with us at that writers festival, she was saying, these are good people you found. And I'm like, I know, right? And I think that is the vibe that you should get from the people who surround you. This industry is so much more collaborative than competitive, in my opinion. We each get a turn in the spotlight. We do. And often we're sharing a stage. It's not about, who's up here and who's down here, or, who most recently won what. I actually have a huge sense of pride in having a diverse writers community that each do things that I could never do, like I love where you get published, Ben, and that like CBC short story, like shortlist is insane. Like it's just, to have people that you can root for in different ways than you could succeed is so wonderful. So if you can shift your mindset from I'm jealous about this to I'm proud of this, like it's so cool that someone else is doing this so I don't have to, is like such a great shift, I think. And in that way, we can multiply our success by surrounding ourselves by, inspirational people that we're rooting for. And you're so right that it's so generative to be around these kind of people. You have conversations you would never think to have. You have ideas flowing that you would never think of. I've attended some of your workshops too, and they give me so many ideas for how I can teach and how I can write. We're always learning from each other. So I would say for those people who don't have a community yet, there are so many opportunities online. There's so many opportunities in person, but think of it as multiplying your success, right? Like surround yourself with people that you're so excited about and that can excite you, right? In your own creativity, it becomes such a positive feedback loop. And I feel like, you're a great example, Finn, of someone who the conversation always ends up being more than the sum of its parts. It's like every time I talk to you, it's, I don't know, it inspires me to do better. And then it gives me ideas that hopefully bounce off back to you and and it's playful and it's fun. Also, I think it's kind of that sandbox of creativity of like not toiling in it and taking it so seriously, but bringing some friends along and enjoying it. And in the rougher moments where you're challenged or where you got a bad review or where you've been criticized or whatever the case may be, that community is super important too, to give you perspective of, hey, it's happened to all of us. You'll probably survive this and don't need to go curl up in the fetal position under, under the bed or whatever. So yeah, I think a writer's community is so important. And I'm so grateful and so lucky to have so many wonderful people like you who just, support each other endlessly and have a continuous well of ideas.
I think that idea of supporting each other is so important. Like, someone else's success does not take away from our success. And so bolstering each other can only help everyone. And then it just leads good people to you. So that
100%.
is absolutely wonderful advice. I'm going to switch and I'm going to ask you something like not at all about writing, but if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be and why?
I love this question. I love all of your questions. I love everything you say. So it's just going to be like par for the course. So if I could have one superpower, I'll tell you what I wanted to be my superpowers when I was younger. And I think that informs the kind of real life superpower I want now. So when I was little, I wanted to have the power of healing. So I remember getting like books of spells when I was little, and like probably around grade like 4 to 6, like mid-elementary. And I would look at them and they would have these recipes of like mint tea with honey or like actual things in the world that like actually do something for you. And I thought it was so cool, this idea that like magic truly exists, that we could heal someone and make someone better, just through real life things. And so that was where my superpower interest started. And when I got into high school, I actually wanted to be the Dalai Lama. So not really like a superpower. I didn't realize at that point that you had to be like chosen, and they don't really choose women, I guess. That's a whole thing. But I wanted to be the Dalai Lama. I love the idea. And I never told anyone about this. It was such like a secret desire. I didn't tell anyone until like a decade later. I was like, I kind of wanted to be the Dalai Lama. Is that weird?
You'd be very good at that job.
Thank you. Thank you. That is a huge compliment. I love the idea of someone whose job was to make people feel better about themselves. And I think that the two goals kind of connect, the two desires connect in the way that I want to make people better. I want people to feel better after they're around me. And I wish that I could just have some sparkly fairy dust to like sprinkle on everyone, but more realistically, I think that's what my work has become. Is I am very mindful about leaving the audience better than I found them. That's one of my goals as a performer. Is I know that spoken word can often be very dark, and mine is no exception. I do have dark moments in it, but I want at the end of a set for people to feel better than when they came into the room. I try very hard to think about that. And so yeah, I think that the superpower of like healing and kindness and leaving people better than you found them is probably the superpower, the real life superpower I would like now. Yeah.
I love that. I think that is an absolute wonderful. I think that is the superpower that you have, though. Like seriously, you do leave the room better. If I could have any superpower, I think as I'm struggling to learn French right now through Duolingo and YouTube videos, would be to instantly be able to master any language in the world. I think that would be a wonderful superpower.
That is a great one. Actually, I want to steal yours a little bit. I was so excited to hear your answer because I was like, Finn's going to have a good one. You for sure thought about this before.
I have.
Yeah, I find that like learning languages is such a gateway into someone's soul that I have learned a few languages now. So I speak French, actually. So if you need a French buddy, we can do coffee dates. I lived in
would
New Brunswick when
love
I was
it. Je
little.
parle de français, mais seul un peu.
Ah, parfait. Alors, on peut pratiquer ensemble,
Ah.
mais tu vas avoir l'accent québécois. You're going to have the Québécois accent, which is not as classy. So put that little warning on the box. But I would love to talk with you. I call it like trailer park French.
I would love. Oh, so
I love Parisian French. And I find Québécois is like, ben là, tabarouette, là, je veux la poutine. It's like very like rough around the edges, but I kind of love that. So anyways, yeah, French. I've learned a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Russian, and sign language to kind of be a little more accessible in my shows. And I have a friend who is deaf. So anyhow, each language you learn, I find it's not about you in the end. It's about allowing somebody else to express them in the most natural way for them, right? Like I can say the level of like, where is the bathroom in some of these languages, I can say the basics of logistical things, but to allow someone else to express their ideas fully and to be able to be eloquent and powerful in their wording in a way that doesn't happen in a second language for a really, really, really long time. It's such a powerful thing. So I love that superpower for you. I love that you're going to connect with other francophones and people who, English isn't their thing. So that's an amazing door to open. And I'm so proud of you for trying. It's always sticky and you have to feel a little bit not stupid, but a little bit stupid sometimes.
Yeah. You have to be willing to suck at something for a long
Yes.
time in order to master it. So,
Hmm.
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel wonderful if nothing else comes out of this interview that we can now be French partners
I'm so
after
excited
this.
for this.
So I have one more legitimate question, and then I'm going to have a bonus question that I'm going to
So
spring on you.
excited.
I'm sorry. I did say 5 questions, but it is,
No,
like
please bring
five
on
and a
the
half.
extra. I'm
So
so ready for this.
the last official question I have is just simply, what are you working on now, and what can we expect to see from you next?
Yeah, so I just finished a quite an exciting season of finishing a lot of projects. So I finished my book. I performed my TED Talk. I finished a leopard frog poem for the Calgary Zoo. I know, honestly, my projects with them are so fun. I'm like,
I
I
love that.
didn't know that people wanted poetry about this, but I'm so excited that they do. Um, so a lot of these things are going to be released soon. So right now I'm in a stage of, I guess, debuting my little poem babies to the world, like debutante, but not in the creepy, like finding a suitor sense, but like launching them to society, I suppose. So I am launching my babies to society. So these things should be out in the world soon. You know, my book launch is next month. The TED Talk should be coming out any week now. And the leopard frog poem's already out
Just
there.
love that so much.
I'm so excited. So yeah, there's so many little projects that are getting out into the world. And then we get to figure out what we do next. I might reach out to the Calgary Zoo and see what other poems they need written, see if there's any other projects to jump in on there. But yeah, right now it's a season of harvest, which is nice as a writer now and then when you get to celebrate what past you has done, and take credit for their work. It's like that feels nice. It's nice to be able to celebrate all that and to say, look how far we as a community have come and what you all helped me to accomplish.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned that it's the season of harvest, because I remember a couple of years ago I was lamenting to one of my friends about that I hadn't written in months, and was feeling like I wasn't even a writer anymore. And she said that your creativity has to go into the ground sometimes, just like a seed, so it can sprout and come back up. So you've just gone through this entire, the harvesting, the reaping of your, fertile season, and now you have to put some stuff in the ground for a while. And I love that analogy.
Yeah, I love this seed analogy too of the planting too, because you're right, like that. There's a gestational period for everything, and you know, one of my creative writing students put it as the office of the interior, that you're gathering information and submitting it to the office of the interior, and then later you look at all these papers that have been submitted and you're like, hey, what can I turn this into? Like, I have all this information now. So we have periods of gathering when we're just starting out of what's interesting to me, and you read and you listen to conversations, and you jot down ideas, and you take a picture of a funny sign that you see on the street, and that's part of the writing process too.
Yeah.
And I think so often we don't recognize that. And I was watching another one of your interviews, and you two were talking about rest and how rest is a part of the creative process, and I thought that was really valuable as well. There are so many pieces that we don't realize are a part of the process and are important to it. So yeah, definitely giving yourself that acknowledgement of, I've done this for my work, even if it's not putting the pencil on the page. I think that that putting the pencil on the page or putting the hands on the keyboard is the last step in the writing process. And there's so much that goes into that.
I think that's such wonderful advice. And I feel that people are going to get so much out of this interview because you have such wonderful advice. But with that said, I do have one last question. This is a bonus question.
I love it.
All right. Have you ever taken a picture of a weird bird?
Yes, Finn, I have. So you don't know how deep this question goes. You really have no idea that you have like hit a little like pressure point in my heart in the best way. So when I was in grade 4, I wanted to be an ornithologist. Uh,
No.
yeah. So I did a project called, How Do Birds Fly for the science fair. And I won and I got to go to regionals and I had a book of birds and I had binoculars. There were like two birds that would land in our backyard at the time. We were in Castlegar, BC. So there'd be like cedar waxwings. And now and then we'd get like a blue jay. I always wanted to see a cardinal, but they didn't really come to those regions. So, anyways, it was the least climactic bird watching ever, but I must have looked through the binoculars at cedar waxwings and black-capped chickadees like 100 times. And now that I'm older, I still have this little thread in my life, and my mom is very much into birds now. And so I have in my camera roll probably like 20 or 30 different birds that I've texted my mom being like, what is this blurry thing in the distance? And it's like phone quality. So it's like a grainy, like she's like, that could be 10 different things. Do you want to look at these images and see what it was in the actual high definition of your eyeballs? And I was like, yeah, it has been really cool though to share that and to, reconnect with that childhood passion.
That is amazing. So my homework for you after this video and before the blog post appears would be for you to find one of your bird pictures that you'd be willing to share, and we'll post it in the blog post when we publish this.
I'm going to look. I probably have a short video that you could tack on the end of this of me. I'm recording a little blurb for my book. And then I go, oh my gosh, there's a woodpecker. And then I take a picture of the woodpecker. So I think I'll have the perfect little reel for you of Miranda getting excited. Are you a birder yourself? Like, do you look at birds also?
So yeah, well, this question actually came about because Marian Lahid, who is my publisher from Off Topic Publishing,
Yeah,
she was one of the first people I interviewed for this, and I asked her to send
it's
me
amazing.
like a headshot or a book cover or a picture of her writing life or whatever. And she wrote back and said, I couldn't think of what to send, so here's a picture of a weird bird that I took. And I thought,
I love that so much. Marion is the best,
she is
man.
so amazing. I just love her so much.
Yeah.
But it just was so random and so like awkwardly adorable that I just
Oh my
decided that
gosh.
I was just going to publish it. And then from then on, I've just asked people about weird birds, and some people have sent pictures, and some people are just like, what? But your story fell. But I do love birds. I actually have an extended family of quail that live in my yard. And so there's like one adult that sits on top of the fence and his little, thing bobs around because quails have the little thingies. And then all of the other ones spread out in the yard and eat. And the one stands guard on the fence to kind of keep watch over everybody. And it's just adorable.
I love that. I love that question. And that some people are just like, what are you? Did I come to the right podcast? Is this what's happening right now? But I absolutely love it. And I love that I got to talk about birds for a few minutes here. That's just fantastic.
Well, I so appreciate you being here, and I look
Oh,
forward to other people reading your book. And then please message me or email me or comment in the blog post if you've read it, because I want to talk about it with other people.
oh.
So, Miranda, thank you so much for being here.
Finn, it's always a pleasure. And honestly, I feel so weird when you're asking me the questions because you're such a treasure trove of information. I'm glad we still got some of your thoughts snuck in there, here and there. But anyone who has a chance to read Finn's work, like, it is just phenomenal. Part of the reason that I'm doing this podcast today is because I heard Finn read for the first time at Wine Country Writers Festival about a year and a bit ago. And their piece was just so compassionate and so delightfully human. It was very specific to an experience, of someone's mother who is, ill and still isn't getting their gender right. And it's just full of human flaws and genuineness and a character trying their hardest to connect with someone who is making it very hard to connect. And anyways, the compassion in your work, Finn, is like beyond. And I am just so thrilled that you chose me as one of your people to be here, because it is just so mutual and I could not be a bigger fan. So thank you so much for having me
We
today.
are definitely a mutual admiration society, and I
100%.
hope we get to do this again.
Please, please. I would take any excuse to talk with you. So bring it on.
Thank you.